EHR Patient Portal, requesting appointments from the portal. If you choose to allow your patients to request appointments from the portal, then there's some required setup and configuration that you can do which defines the specific levels of interaction they can have. Now, this does require administrative access for the user who's going to perform this setup and is done under your Settings Configuration menu. And there under our masters, we're going to go into our Location Master, Encounter Type Master, and Provider Master. All three of these have an indicator as to whether or not the value is allowable on the portal. And then, of course, the combination needs to be defined in the provider's availability under their work pattern. In addition, there are some portal level properties that can also be defined that governs the behavior and the level of interaction for the patient. Now, we touched on these in our client setup of the patient portal video, but specifically with regards to the behavior of appointments, we're going to look at these four properties in detail. And then finally, when you do allow the patients to request appointments from the portal, there's the process back in EHR for the schedulers or the administrative folks at the front desk to work the requested appointment call list in order to confirm and verify those appointments. So we're going to look at all of this setup. I have logged into Prognosis as the administrator, and I have opened up the configuration page. So the first thing we're going to look at is our Location Master, and that is over here under our second column, Clinic Locations. Now, my training facility has 4 locations, so we're going to decide which ones of these locations our patients are able to book appointments for. Of course, if you are a single location practice, you'll only have to do this for the one. Your CL is always your clinic location, which is primary. And then if you have additional locations or satellite locations, those can also be specified individually. I'm just going to open up my On the Bay Internal Medicine. And there is this flag down here towards the bottom on the left-hand margin that says Available for Appointment from Portal. If this option is selected, as you see here, then that means that a location will be available on the request appointment screen for the patient on the portal. If there is a location, maybe you do surgeries only or procedures, and you don't want your patients to request appointments at that location, then you simply deselect it. And even though the patient will still be able to request appointments on the portal, they will not have that location as an option. So they will only be able to use locations that you've permitted. I'm going to go back to configuration. Similarly, if we go further down that clinic column on our encounter type, we have the same functionality. Only this time it's at the encounter type level. So this again is where you can get really specific. Maybe you do want your patients to be able to request general office visits or even post-op follow-up visits and things of that nature. But you don't want them to actually schedule procedures and surgeries because those are going to require additional help on your part to schedule the room and make sure that all the pre-certifications are done in advance and whatnot. So you want to force the patient to call the office in those scenarios. But when it's just a quick well check or physical, you don't mind if they do it on the portal because it's not going to require any additional efforts on your part prior to the visit. So for instance, a nurse visit. I'm just going to go ahead and choose that one. So just as we saw on the Location Master, we have the same option here, Available for Appointment from Portal. And as long as it is checkmarked, then that encounter type will be available for your patient to make an appointment for that. And again, for your procedures, if I go in here and look at my procedure, for instance, I don't have it selected because I'm not going to allow patients to book procedures from the portal. They have to actually call me for that. So then the third piece is for the providers themselves. Now this is under our medics column, so I'm going to open up my provider profile, and you would have to do this for each individual provider. Just going to open up my Dr. Cooper, and over here on the right hand side we have for PP scheduling, and PP means patient portal. Now, you don't need to worry about clicking the not for scheduling. That is something different in the software. In the context of allowing the patients to request appointments on the portal, the only option we're looking at is for patient portal scheduling. If this is not selected, that doctor will not be available on the portal for patients to request appointments for. Now, once you have those 3 settings defined as to your locations, encounter types, and providers availability on the portal, The other key factor, of course, is your doctor's work patterns. This, of course, is your basic setup in the office, whether you're using the portal or not, that determines doctor availability, but it's key when you're allowing patients to request appointments on the portal as well, because they're going to be able to search for the doctor's availability at the location on the desired date that they want to see the physician. Now, this, of course, is covered in a separate video, so I'm not going to go into this setup, but if I come in here and look at Dr. Sheldon Cooper, for instance, and we look down here for his default schedule, we do have him defined. So those are the clinic level parameters for the location and the doctor and the encounter types. Now we're going to look at the behavior on the portal itself. We're going to go under our admin properties column and open up our portal parameters. Now there's the separate video client setup for patient portal addresses a lot of these other properties. In the context of this video, we're only going to look at the 4 that have to do with the appointment process. First of all, down here at the bottom, we have one called Take Appointment. You'll notice in the property Help, you can set the value to a yes, which displays the Take Appointment button, or set the value to R, as you see in my example, which displays the Request Appointment button, or the third value, No, is to take no action on the portal. Now, the difference here in Take an Appointment and Request an Appointment, if you give this value a yes, and the appointment button is called Take Appointment for the patient on the portal, that actually confirms the appointment and puts it on your calendar in EHR, with nobody having to intervene to approve it or verify if they need to get pre-certification or anything. It's just as if they are calling you and you're confirming the appointment with them. R, however, it's not putting it on the calendar, but rather putting it to a request list. And then somebody within your practice can go to that request list, verify if they want to confirm the appointment, verify if there's any additional work needed, such as pre-certifications or whatever, and then handle it accordingly. And that is done in tandem with a couple of these other properties that we're going to look at up above. So the first decision would be, do you want your patients to self-confirm or to simply request? And of course, if you're not going to allow appointments at all, then you can make it a no. Now, in conjunction with that, we also have the delete appointment. If you're going to allow patients to request appointments, do you also want to give them the ability of deleting it? And this would simply be a yes-no setting. And then a little farther up, we have these two properties we're going to take together, the appointment mail to and the appointment rule. And again, we're going to look down here in the property help. For the appointment rule, this property is used to send urgent messages to users when an appointment is scheduled or requested on the portal. And again, we have several values to choose from. This is not just a yes-no property. If we set the value to A, then this means a message will be sent to the appointment doctor. If we set the value to no, the message will be sent to all nurses assigned to that appointment doctor. And if we set the value to S, then it will be sent to all staff members who are given the user role defined in the property right up above called mail to. Now, this mail to is a custom role that you can define and assign that to any user or users within your practice who needs to get that message. Now, you don't have to do this at all. If you recall down below, we talked about the value of an R, request appointment. The request appointment is going to put these on a list anyways that we're going to look at in just a little bit. So you don't even need the message to still find out that these patients have requested appointments. And then based on your workflows in the front desk, you can still go in there and confirm. So you do have some administrative decisions there. One, are you going to let the patients request appointments at all? Two, do you want them to actually self-confirm the appointment? If so, who needs to receive a notification that that has happened? Or do you want them to just request an appointment? And then at that point, who is going to do the follow-up on the requested appointment? And that is the next piece we're going to look at. So before we look at that process, we're going to go into the portal now and actually request an appointment. So I've logged in here to the portal now as my patient Jessica, and I've chosen my appointment tab. Now you'll notice right now here at the bottom, the label of my button is request appointment. And that is because I have that property value set to an R. If I had that property value set to yes, the screen would look exactly the same, except this button would say take appointment instead of request appointment. Now, up above is where the patient chooses the appointment. Now, this is similar to your take appointment dialogue in EHR, but of course, this is going to be foreign to your patients. So if you are going to allow your patients to do this, you're going to have to educate them as far as helping them to understand the screen and how to fill it out, and the language as far as what an encounter type is and so on. So first of all, in the upper left is the doctor. Now it defaults, in my case of Jessica, to Dr. Cooper, because if you look right up above in the patient band, Jessica's primary doctor is Dr. Cooper. So if you've assigned the appropriate physician under patient register, then the patient doesn't need to worry about changing the doctor. But in the case of multi-physician practices, the patient will have the ability of choosing a different doctor in the office based on that PP scheduling flag in the provider master that we just looked at. If the provider master profile does not have that for PP scheduling indicator selected, their name will not display in this list. Similarly with your locations. If you recall, back in my location master, I have 4 locations in my practice, but we're only looking at 3 locations here. So this is where the patient, again, will only be able to choose from the locations that you have flagged as available on the patient portal. Reason for the visit, you would have to stress to your patients, just put the reason you're coming in. This, of course, translates into your encounter screen as the chief complaint. This is free text, so the patient can type whatever they want. They can specify the date, on or after. Now, the duration is based on the encounter type, so the patient doesn't need to fill that in. They need to choose the encounter type. And again, if you recall, back in my database, I had about 20 encounter types. But for my patients, I'm only allowing them to choose a few based on that flag indicator again. So my patients are only allowed to book an appointment if they're a new patient for a nurse visit or an office visit, or my generic patient scenario. And then the patient can choose what days of the week. Maybe they don't like Mondays or Fridays. Maybe you don't work Saturdays and Sundays. So they'll come in any day on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they can choose from the time. And this is where it's going to look at the doctor's work pattern. So based on the scheduled hours and the time of day and the day of the week at each location that you have given availability for the doctor at the location, when the patient clicks the Find button, the grid is now going to populate with 2 available appointments at a time, starting with the earliest. And then the patient can decide if one of those works. If not, he or she can click the Find Next button and it will display the next 2 available, and so on until they find the appointment they want. Once the patient sees an appointment that works, they can select it and click the button Request Appointment. When that happens, notice at the top of my screen now, my table has displayed with my current appointment. So this lets me know as the patient that I currently have requested an appointment on Thursday, May 5th at 9:15 a.m. and my status is requested. It's requested, not confirmed. So again, if you allow your patients this feature, your office staff is going to need to be aware of this entire workflow and how you need to educate your patients accordingly. Now, if I go back into prognosis, we have 2 options of working that requested appointment list. The more common one for a daily basis is going to be from appointment schedule, because that's typically where your front office staff is working. Up here in the upper left, we have our call list. And if you click your telephone, you can choose requested appointments. You can specify your date range, and that populates now with all of your patients who have requested an appointment from the portal. And there we see Jessica Pearson. If we hover our mouse over, it gives us the appointment details. May 5th, 9:15 a.m., and the chief complaint is my stomach hurts, coughing, can't breathe. So at that point, you can just visually look at it and decide, okay, do I want to confirm it or not? If you want to confirm it because that's okay, click her name. It opens the appointment, which of course will launch any alerts if there are any applicable so that you're made aware, especially if there's any billing related alert, and you simply click schedule. And that will then add it to your calendar and confirm the appointment. Now, if you notice down here in the lower left, it is in a scheduled status and it shows up on our calendar. And now if I go back into the portal and refresh my screen as the patient, my status now says scheduled because it's been confirmed. And there was no phone calls exchanged between the patient and the practice. Now, of course, back at this level also, your workflows may involve doing pre-certs or whatever else you need to do and verifying demographics. But that would be your process if you're going to allow your patients to request appointments from the portal. The other option to working that call list, if you don't want to do it from the schedule, here on the home page you do have the patient reminder hyperlink, and you also can access your requested appointments there. Now, since I just already confirmed Jessica, my list is now empty, so it's telling me no records found. But you also could have done it in this screen. So in review, when it comes to requesting appointments from the portal, if you choose to allow your patients that functionality, there's some configuration at the clinic detail level for your location master and your encounter types. Provider level configuration involves individual provider user profiles as well as their individual work patterns. We discussed 4 properties at the patient portal parameter level as to whether or not patients can request an appointment or self-confirm it, delete an appointment, and then whether or not in conjunction with self-confirming, somebody in the office needs to receive an alert to that effect. And then finally, if they're going to be requesting appointments instead of self-confirming, somebody needs to work the requested appointment call list, which can either be done from the schedule or the patient reminders on the home page.